Welcome back to my belated annual Oscar series wherein I talk about all the Oscar categories except for the short film ones. I rank all the nominees in each category according to who I think deserves to win the Oscar, and then I talk about who my prediction is for who will win the Oscar. Saying that so many times has got my tongue tied, I'm sorry. Anyway, to continue where I left off, let's talk about Best Adapted Screenplay. So the nominees are The Big Short, Adam McKay and Charles Randolph, based on the book by Michael Lewis. Brooklyn, Nick Hornby, based on the novel by Colm Tobin. Carol, Phyllis Nage, based on the novel The Price of Salt by Patricia Highsmith. The Martian, Drew Goddard, based on the novel by Andy Weir. And Room, Emma Donoghue, based on her novel. Now this is a pretty good list of nominees. All the nominated films in this category are all great. I just think I'm very picky with my screenplays. I don't know why, but I feel like I have higher standards for screenplays as opposed to like cinematography and music and whatnot. There are two screenplays here that really stand out for me. The rest of them, like, for all accounts and purposes, are great screenplays. It's just that, in terms of ranking them, I have to point out their flaws as well. So at fifth place in terms of who I think deserve to win the Oscar, I'm putting The Big Short. The big thing behind The Big Short screenplay was to make the everyman understand the financial crisis. And the thing about the screenplay of The Big Short is that it doesn't completely achieve this goal. I and a lot of other people I know were still just as confused about the financial crisis walking out of the movie. But I will give it credit for the fact that it tried to demystify like a lot of this jargon and stuff that went into the financial crisis. But the way the script also kind of delivers some of these facts can get a bit pretentious, so that's where the screenplay kind of sagged for me. In terms of like the plot they were able to get out of all these facts, like I enjoyed that a lot. I enjoyed pretty much all of the characters in the movie. However, some of them really are kind of, downplayed and get less screen time when they're not played by a big name actor, so there's that also. Now at number 4, I am putting The Martian, and overall the story of The Martian is great. I had a lot of fun with this movie. I love the film. It has a terrific central character in Mark Watney, played by Matt Damon. And the dialogue in the film has healthy doses of both humor and serious drama, and that kind of balance is rare in a Ridley Scott film, so it was nice to see that sort of duality. So I really don't have problems with the Martian screenplay, except for maybe some characters in NASA on Earth who are really, to me, just plot devices. They're not fully fleshed out characters, and I don't necessarily care for them as much as Mark Watney and the rest of his crew in space. So that's the only thing really holding it back. At number 3, I am putting Room. Again, Room has an incredible story that takes an unexpected turn in the middle of the film, but I feel like in the hands of any lesser writer, this unexpected turn would have kind of just made everything fail. But in Emma Donoghue's hands, it really works. And the thing is, unlike the rest of these nominees, I've actually read the book Room, and I read it like years before the movie was even announced. And strangely, I remember not liking the book that much, and I think the story works better as a screenplay because you're not forced to sit through Jack's narration like in the book. So the third person point of view really works, I think, and Jack and Ma really are just great characters. The only negative I guess I could come up with for Room's screenplay is the fact that I wish the captor had more of a role. I understand he's ultimately not that important to the overall story, but I just feel like that was sort of a wasted opportunity. Now these next two are extremely difficult for me to rank because they are very similar in very different ways. That didn't make sense, but yeah, so I'm settled for this order. So at number 2, I'm putting Carol. And let me make it perfectly clear, I think Carol is a phenomenal film and I have zero issues with its screenplay. It says so much with so little. Like, it doesn't have that much dialogue compared to some of the other movies on this list. But there's a lot of emotion being poured out from just these two incredible characters. You understand both Therese and Carol so much. The relationship is beautiful, but at the same time, they don't depend on the relationship to be good characters in themselves. And what I love that Carol does is that it uses the backdrop of 1950s New York in a really excellent way to influence both the story and the themes in the movie are great as well. And I guess it's just a big deal to me that I actually cared about a romance film. Like, it's tough to make me care about romance. But here, I felt it, and I felt the themes really come from organically from the characters. And finally, at first place, the film that I think deserved to win Best Adapted Screenplay was Brooklyn. The screenplay for Brooklyn, in my opinion, is extremely similar to Carol in many ways, like how it's set in New York as well in the same year, 1952. It's also a romance, but I'm giving Brooklyn the edge because of how it makes a love triangle work. Like, I'm not a fan of romances, and love triangles are like at the bottom of the barrel of that. But the love triangle here works. I like all three of the characters involved. I understood where everyone's coming from. I didn't judge anyone. And it really became a difficult decision. And no matter who Eilish picked, like there was an opportunity cost that I felt. But I guess the reason why this screenplay works is the fact that it's not really based on the romance. Like, the story doesn't depend on the romance. It's really a coming-of-age story for the character of Eilish, played by Saoirse Ronan. And I'm also giving this the edge because of how it portrayed its settings of both Brooklyn and Ireland. Both these settings really come to life and help influence her choices and her decisions. So yeah, like, I really just feel like this is such a complete screenplay, and I'm putting it at number 1. But as for my official bet as to who I thought was going to win the Oscar, I gave it to The Big Short, and the Academy also gave it to The Big Short. Because the Academy loves to give this to movies with a lot of talking and movies that are based on true events, and The Big Short definitely checks both boxes. Again, I disagree completely with their choice, but that's how they vote. Alright, so those are my thoughts on the Best Adapted Screenplay category from last year. What do you guys think of the category? What do you think of the nominees? Who do you think should have won? Who do you think was going to win? Whatever you thought, whether you agree with me or not, please leave me a comment. Let's have a conversation.